Diane, can you please introduce yourself and your husband to us?
Yes. So I am Diane Lillimore and I live in Australia and I have a rare syndrome called 22q11.2 Deletion syndrome. And this is my partner and he is my main carer and best friend, everything.
All rolled into one.
Yes. And helps me manage my condition, which is multi-systemic. And yes, that's pretty much
And we've been together for
Two.
what, 34 years.
30 something years.
Wow.
I've lost count.
Time flies.
And I'm good with numbers.
That is a lovely introduction. And what would you like people to know about you before they hear about your diagnosis?
About me, I feel, I mean, it might be connected to the diagnosis, but I feel like me as a person, I'm a very much a down to earth person. I like facts. I love people. Hashtag save the humans. Um, anywhere. And I just am someone who walks through life who really values humans and nature and nothing else. So I feel like I don't really belong on planet Earth, but I have had a good life regardless of my struggles. And I think that because of my struggles, that's why I look at the world differently and life differently, because when you come out of suffering and pain, everything looks more colorful, everything's more exciting. And so it's been a mixed bag for me. I was born sick. I don't know any other life of not being sick. So I guess because of that, it gave me a strength as a baby before I could, think complex thoughts, that life is so valuable. And so it's a kind of a gift, because I'm all about now quality of life, not quantity of life.
Sure.
That is a very powerful answer. And when did you get your diagnosis, which is 22q11.2 deletion syndrome? And what symptoms made doctors look for it?
Well, I got late diagnosed with actual 22q. So I was 47, 48, and I'm now 51, nearly 52. But I was born with different diagnoses. They just didn't add it together and then kind of look at rare. So I fell through the cracks.
Thousands and thousands of hospital consultations over
Mild adult.
every year of their life, to be honest.
So it was lucky that I lived as a baby when I was born. I was what they call a miracle baby. So I was lucky to live, and they knew things were wrong, but they didn't know the rare. So that I just kept getting all these diagnoses that are part of 22q, but they didn't put it all together.
And that's the funny thing about this video, is it is actually a bit backwards to front. There are so many separate individual diagnoses that Diane's got collectively, which is massive. But then when you actually do look at it collectively with the lens of seeing all of these things at once, rather than all the compartmentalization that we've experienced, it makes huge amount of sense. And in fact, when you get the diagnosis and the genetics specialist who spent the time, several hours, measuring you, taking your blood for DNA testing, asking lots of historical questions.
Yeah, it was like
symptoms
before the blood test, before the DNA test. But I think it was, we did our own research by suggestion of, oh, you're medically complex, like look into genetics. And we kind of did play with it a little bit, but we didn't expect anything at all. And then all of a sudden, someone like in the medical field in my circle that I was going to said, oh, yeah, let's get you tested in my state.
Well,
and they found it.
We had to actually present, to be honest, Lydia, a good case of information. And to be honest, well, I'm the lucky one, because I've known Diane for such a long period of time. Anecdotally, I've seen everything that she's done in that period of time. And I've also pieced together family history, which is really important when you start to build up patterns of behavior and genetic approach. We started to explore ourselves individually and independently, the genetic side of things, by actually downloading and getting a copy of Diane's DNA and using a web-based researchers platform called LiveWello to actually input and upload that data to actually start explore and find out, well, what research is out there? Are there any answers to many of the questions that we had? Because there was a lot of doctors that were literally just scratching their head.
they know that rare exists, but they kind of have this attitude that, but it's rare, so no one has it. But we have to remember that there is 7,000 rare syndromes and diseases, and you could be one of them.
That's right.
You could never rule it out. You have to keep it in the back of your mind as a doctor. And I think my doctors learnt that. I think like a lot of people that have met me that are in the industry for the right reasons have learnt that.
That's 7,000 rare conditions. That equates to about 2 million Australians. That's almost over 8% of the population of Australia specific has some form of rare condition. Every year there's 200 new rare conditions that come on board, but only 5% of those rare conditions actually have any plan or treatment or management in place. And unfortunately for Diane, there is no individual specialist specifically for 22q for adults in Australia. The UK is the same thing. There's no specialist in the UK for the same condition. Funnily enough, though, there are 2 specialists for children, one in Perth Children's Hospital, one in Queensland's Children's Hospital, but our Australian health system means that Diane can't go backwards, can you, with Medicare? So we can't consult. It's ludicrous. I know.
Yeah.
But the reality is,
I will never in my lifetime, because of the rare, I will never see a specialist, a 22q specialist in my life.
no. And look, the organisation in Australia called Rare Voices is advocating at the Australian level to create more awareness for this condition, particularly at federal level with our federal health minister, because we don't have a centre of excellence to be able to refer to. And that's really what the national guidelines in Australia say. If you don't know about the condition, go looking, go and find out information and refer to a centre of excellence. So we don't have like a Mayo Clinic or John Hopkins in Australia, but they need to still develop one. So we are floundering a bit, to be honest. And unfortunately,
That's what pushed us to also do the channel and keep going. Was that even though I got the diagnosis, it's the battle and the struggle hasn't stopped. Yes, it's good to know the map of what's going on, but we're still trying to survive, and and it's good to do that with others.
100%. And community is really important. And your YouTube channel that you've developed has actually enabled a lot of people with 22q from around the entire world to actually connect and come together, share their stories, hear our story, and actually start to piece together a lot of information.
How does it feel for you then to be diagnosed at a very late age, and also both of you being independent researchers to educate the geneticists or even physicians?
Yes. It is. I was very I think I went through the stages of grief, the 5 stages of grief. I've studied psychology, so it helps as an autistic to know what is psychology. Okay, this is what's happening. And I realized that I was very sad at first. And then I went through more stages of the grief after that. And I still go in and out of some of the 5 stages now. But lucky, I think it's even part of my syndrome that I'm happy a lot. And I think that's a blessing of the syndrome, which is weird, isn't it? But I was very disappointed in my country. I was disappointed in the medical system, and I was actually really upset as a woman that for so many years people just kept looking at me, especially younger adults, as this is ridiculous. There's just no way you can be this sick or have this many infections this year, and that kind of thing. And it feels sad looking back at my younger self that I had to go through that, kind of persecution feelings from medical professionals. And I actually have medical PTSD because of it, because they intimidate me. But I've had to now speak up and say, well, I'm rare. I have to explain what this is, because it's not your fault, but you're not going to understand. You're probably never going to come across a person like me in your career. These are the things that I have because of 22q and what I struggle with. And it is difficult.
Especially with the medical gaslighting and the misogyny in the medical system for females. And that makes it harder. It takes longer, therefore, for a diagnosis to occur.
And my
commonly 8 to 10 years is the average for a diagnosis to be achieved.
22q, and it brings a bit of autism, but it is the 22q. I can speak well, but my comprehension is really low. So I don't know if that's easy to understand. I hope that's an easy way to explain it.
Receptive communication. So you can hear things, you appear to be understand, but you're not actually taking that on board and able to get it. And that comes off that
communication with doctors is extremely hard.
Yeah.
And they're not used to that. But it has to be that way for safety, because I live in the moment. So I won't say, oh, yeah, I had a major seizure last night. I won't say that the next day.
Well, that's what
So
she should
that's
say.
where he steps
When
in.
Diane presents to a doctor and she gets asked, how are you? In that moment, she uses a normal social appointment of going, I'm fine, thank you. And I look at her and I shake my head and go, Colin, you've got a migraine.
This is what you meant to
Just had 7 seizures that day. It's like, you're not fine. Why aren't you explaining that? But that's part of the challenge of her condition, having autism, having ADHD, being OCD. But Tourette's really also makes it a bit challenging. There's so many components from a intellectually developmental delay, which affected not only her education, but also her ability to seek help, to reach out, to go towards assistance and find the right sort of help and understanding.
Right, and the right people that
Yeah.
are understanding. And luckily, there have been in my life. There's been people that have been tolerant, I guess, to get me through the developmental phases of life, to get me where I am today. So I'm grateful for that. And I guess every 22Qer, that's what I wish for them, is that they're surrounded by someone that steps in, because the developmental problems are huge.
Yeah.
The IDD, intellectual developmental problems, are really difficult. But
This
if you
is-
get the right support,
Which is
the
really important.
outcome's good.
But this is why the clinical guidelines, international clinical guidelines, 22Q, are very, very specific, where they do recommend, particularly from the transition from childhood, adolescence into adulthood, the need to have guardianship in place to deal with the complexities, maybe of financial interactions, but particularly the medical side of things. Unfortunately, those same guidelines really are very clear to say that most medical specialists, most GPs will never come across a patient like Diane in their 30 to 40-year career or history. So unless they're willing to go outside of the box and do some Googling and download the medical journals and be open-minded, but also not compartmentalized, to take on board all of the symptoms.
Systemic.
It's really complex.
neurological, It's immune system. It's
Yeah. There's about 185 possible
Yeah.
clinical symptoms that come with this particular condition. You've got, 25 different specialists at the hospital, all of these different individuals and a care team that need to communicate, to engage, to cooperate.
and the way our
Just
system
before time.
designed
That's what
is designed for, just normal care where it's compartmentalized.
So
That makes it hard.
coming back to your question, Lydia, how did Diane feel when she got this diagnosis specifically? I would actually say it's a eureka. I'm going to use that Australian word, a eureka moment of an epiphany of, we're there. We finally got there. We finally got an answer. So first of all, is that shock, that overwhelm is going, someone now gets me. Someone's got an answer.
I was
Hopefully that's help.
I was absolutely terrified, even though I was relieved that, oh, it's got a name. Oh, okay. Like, I can look at this. I've got a map now. But I was terrified, especially life expectancy and all of these realities that I had to face. Recently I've had to plan my own funeral just in case, because of my life expectancy being 41 is the research. And so, you have to be prepared, and you got to, what is the hope? Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best.
So it's a public to care approach,
Yeah.
methodology to thinking around our lifestyle.
It's hard to do that at 51.
We're very
to
complex
face that.
household, aren't we?
But to face that in a couple of, like 2 and a bit years, 3 years ago, like in this short time, to face everything, extra testing and, extra discussions with doctors, and then having to look at your mortality, it's huge. It's like, it's been good and, you know what I mean? Like a mixed bag.
I guess that also reflects, Lydia,
I
upon,
get our children tested.
it reflects upon the research in the community too. There's no longitudinal studies for patients in this cohort, nothing above 30 years of age either. So we don't know exactly the pathways moving forward. We're having to find this out as we go along. And that's why we hope, obviously, for the medical research community to spend more time and effort to explore, and for our own community internationally to come together so we can share symptoms and start to have those conversations to help other people.
Yeah.
And how do all these conditions affect your sense of independence? You said that Diane has autism spectrum disorder, chronic fatigue, OCD, Tourette, tics. So how do all of these secondary symptoms affect your independence?
Yeah, it does a lot. Like, it's difficult for him, and even my carers we have come in and care for me to help him have some respite, which is difficult. But it is difficult because I love my independence, because my mental age is 18-ish. So I am an adult, but I have vulnerabilities. So I do need to be supervised for safety. I do need to do social stories to make sure I'm comprehending social settings properly. And it can be awkward because people don't understand that because I speak well. I've been to university. I've done my hyper focus on psychology naturally to understand humans. But yeah, like it is hard balancing act between him sort of going, yeah, like she needs her independence to keeping me safe.
And I like that word.
Like both
balance.
and other people.
We actually try to maintain that balance, especially for Diane to be able to be as independent as long as she possibly can. But I think Diane's also touched upon very clearly, but she needs observation. In Australia, our disability system is actually managed under what's called the NDIS, National Disability Insurance Scheme. Diane has been identified as a person who's at risk. She needs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, visibility of supports around it. And those supports have to also be of a high intensity care needs. So we need to have registered nurses, people who are very well trained, experienced, and qualified in both nursing, but also with disability care needs. Because with Diane, at any time of the day or night, sometimes we can predict, not all the time.
Too life-threatening.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Click of an eye. And that's multi-systemic part of things. So we're always on standby. We've always got a lot of equipment, a lot of medications on us and around us.
Monitored.
Just so that we can try and stay out of hospital and be able to live, coming back to that, we're independently, living independently at home with your cats in the beautiful environment that you've got, joy. But Diane has to also pace. You mentioned some of the sub-conditions like MEC, that's a fatiguing condition.
It's brutal.
It was actually funny, Lydia, when Diane was first diagnosed, one of the very first questions that she asked to the geneticist was, does that mean that you can do something to help me with my fatigue, as an example, just one aspect? And unfortunately, the genetically said, look, you've got several fatiguing conditions underlying, so no, you don't. So we've learned to pace, a bit like a battery or running low on a phone. Diane paces
hard with
to prepare,
though.
And that's the conflict. There are many conflicting components to this condition for you.
So I need to make sure I take my ADHD medication because I can overdo it physically. Then my heart seizures happen because I've exhausted myself. So it's a balancing act. It's like budgeting. It's you got to budget your energy, and it's horrible. It's horrible when you just value life so much. It's hard because you want to just live and experience everything as much as possible and lots of times. And I have so many dreams and aspirations like anyone else, but I'm trapped in a body that's like an 80-year-old. And it's really hard. But that's why the channel keeps me, when I have my fun videos, and that's what keeps me connected to what life is about.
Diane has really, in fact, we both have adapted. Adapted to her condition along the years.
Not knowing really.
Made accommodations to that.
Unless we go out there.
And everything that you do, try to get the best opportunity for Diane. So we're lucky that we're able to do that. I stopped work probably 8 years ago now. But even that was a stage progression as her condition deteriorated until we got to the realization that, look, the health system isn't coping with the needs for Diane. I need to be there to take that responsibility to be able to provide that support until we get things like the NDIS in place. And that's been a really good system.
Sufficient for a long time, as long as we could. But yeah, when I got to that severe side, because it's degenerative, so a 22q just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And so, it just got to that point where, and also, if my life is short, I want to be with my person, and live my best life, because this is kind of my retirement, I guess. And
medical retirement.
Medical retirement, So, but it is a different life. And I only realize that when I go out there to certain occasions, which I still sometimes get to do, but it's rare. But it's emotionally hard, actually, because seeing what I did have 20, 30 years ago, it is hard. It is hard to sort of realize how much worse I've gotten.
I think that's lost. Not only just that loss, but also that realization of difference, Lydia. Having some of these conditions.
It's different. I am. It's my autism. I didn't realize before. Ignorance is bliss. But it caused a lot of problems because there was so much misunderstandings and miscommunications, and I was very isolated, which didn't bother me being autistic because we entertain ourselves, but that's not really ideal. But I'm grateful for things now, so it's kind of a mixed bag now. There's things that now that I know, it's better that because you can be more understanding to yourself, more compassion to yourself, and that's why I just want to, share that compassion to others of, yes, you might be disabled, but you're not less than.
Yeah, good point.
And what are the social situations that are very hard for you to understand or handle?
Yeah. The hardest ones would be my peer group. So if I'm around people that they look at my chronological age and they expect me to have an understanding of that age, or and then be able to even maybe expand a bit more if someone's maybe older than me. And if it's not a situation that I can explain, look, my mental age is different to my chronological age, and they're not, say, educated on autism, educated on rare syndromes, it's it could be rejection. It could be just I can get told off, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's actually
Why are you so immature?
it's quite a few challenges,
Yeah.
and it is a spectrum. Each person with 22q like autism is uniquely different in their own right, how they present. Diane has
That's
been
correct.
tested with the neuropsychologist, and the maturity is obviously more as a teenager. Physically, chronologically, she's 51 years of age, but the genetic condition actually predisposes her to having the impact and the clinical symptoms as if she's 3 decades older, as an 80-year-old. But socially, there's many of these aspects. Autism itself creates the manipulation, the risk of people.
It's like pathological naivety.
Yes, that's a great word.
You learn it intellectually, but you forget because you're not learning, because you don't have it just natural. So people can trick me really easily.
Then you have aspects
I
like
feel
Tourette.
stupid a lot.
Mm.
And so it can be embarrassing. And if you're not around people that understand disability
Or
tolerance or tolerance of it, then it can be a negative experience. And I try to keep pushing myself out there anyway, but it is hard.
Well, part of the challenge is your fatigue as well, Diane. Yeah. The reality is that if you get an invitation, we all had this socially, you might get an invitation to come to Christmas. So that's great. We all look forward to it. But the problem is Diane can't predict on that day how unwell or how well she's going to be. So we hope, we plan for things, but the reality is we've always got to put that caveat in that, look, we may not be able to attend. We may only be able to attend for a short space of time. We might have to leave. We do a lot of pacing beforehand so that Diane can attend. There's a lot of effort that goes into that exercise.
Watch who are around. You suss out. I think he does that naturally. I think you're not even realizing. But
Exactly.
like I hear you say things sometimes, and I notice that you do steer me away from people that you know won't understand, and it could be quite a negative experience for me, which I kind of really appreciate.
100%.
Yeah.
And there's other aspects. I was going to say the Tourette's. Unfortunately, some things which are more outward. So vocalizations, 8 to 10% of people with Tourette's will have inappropriate language like coprania or inappropriate, signaling. So putting the fingers up, so copraxia. Those sort of things can attract negative attention, and that can be embarrassing. So then there's that concern of, are other people looking at you or talking about you behind your face? It doesn't make you feel all that good. Even having a seizure in public is actually really quite complex.
It's very embarrassing.
You want your privacy in moments you don't feel that you're vulnerable.
And with Tourette's, it's vulnerable, and people don't believe in it, sadly. And that's a hard thing because
Or they make fun of conditions like
they
that.
make fun of it, and it's difficult because I'm really religious, and so it's not what I'm wanting to present like at all. So it's totally oppositional to what I guess I am as a person. So
Logically, you have no choice because it's your brain, just as much as it's a dystonia or a tic or Tourette. That's what it's going to do when it's going to do it, unfortunately.
I'm going to my doctor. He has no cure.
No answers yet. We're working on it.
Yeah.
Are there times or situations when your tics get much worse?
Yeah. So I do find that, around seizures, there's a lot of neurological. So it's like a cluster for me. So for me, it's migraines in my preictals. It's sensitivities to the lights and sounds. And all that to me says, there's probably going to be a seizure. After a seizure, I have a lot of speaking issues, whether it's stuttering, whether it's word finding, saying the wrong word. And then the Tourette's is bad after seizures. It's pretty much a pattern there.
Yeah. So there's a window either side of actualized seizures, but
Tourette's.
But even before that, there's obviously key contributors. Now, for Diane, we are very aware of triggers towards neurological conditions, sleep, and obviously sleep quality. So that deep sleep, restorative sleep. A lot of autistics, particularly a lot of people with 22q, struggle with sleep. And of course, if your brain is not getting that restorative approach, then it is more likely to go into having things such as migraines or seizures or Tourette's.
Sleep.
Stress can obviously be another contributor.
I get stressed. Tourette's can really just
Ramp up.
fire off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the more fatigued your body is, the less energy that it has, and you're trying to push yourself to perform, even just walking to the toilet or back, it can kick in as well. So look, here in the summer in Australia, it's very warm, and we've actually found that the warmer weather, though we love it, we love that you're fishing the water, you love swimming.
The doctor, oh, we're coming up to summer, doctor. Remember, seizure season.
Yeah.
It really is a
It
thing.
does.
Over the years, we've noticed that summertime, I have way more seizures if you calculated them than in like winter.
100%. But look, Don's got a couple of things which are very common to a lot of patients with 22q. The whole autoimmune and neutropenia, which means she's more loaded with infections. So infection seems to be a common trigger into seizures and neurology. So that's one part of it. So, and also coming with it at the same time, of course, is temperature. You tend to be more febrile, so you have a higher body temperature, 38, 38.5. So because of that, you're more prone to stepping into seizures, and subsequently more prone to having more tics as well as we go along.
Yeah, fevers can set me off.
That is well informative. And behind the scenes, I said that I've rarely seen a father, husband, and medical caregiver all in one person caring for Diane. So people often ask why you don't hire a very experienced carer so you can have more breaks and take care of your mental health. How do you answer them?
Look, I appreciate that sort of question. It's actually been our goal to be able to have a team of supports so that they can actually work with Diane and provide, as most carers need, the respite to prevent burnout. Because carer burnout is actually a very real thing. And that's both physically, mentally, and emotionally that actually occurs in that, particularly when you've got sleep deprivation, when you've got heightened stress around dealing with very complex and acute medical emergencies at the time. And also just having to be there to deal with a long time. The paperwork.
It's a big job.
There's so much paperwork between the disabilities sector and the health sector that you're having to apply. Now, though we are understanding of that, though we actually appreciate that, the NDIS, that come back to that National Disability Insurance Scheme, is the system that provides the supports. There is a challenge inside of that when you've got conditions such as Diane of high levels of complexities and trying to find those high intensity support needs staff. Now, you've got to look at staff who've got as many of it do that because there's a lot of risks. And we understand that there's a whole lot of risks and stress that can be put upon those sort of carers. So it is more difficult for us to actually find staff that are competent, obviously trained in that sort of regards. It also has to be the right mix. Having a person such as Diane who's got autism and ASD and OCD and traits, those sort of things as well. You've got to find the right blend of people who are going to fit into our environment, into our family, so that it becomes almost like a family. It's a relaxed environment.
Having someone around you 24/7,
Yeah.
that's not family, which, we're both sort of not used to being around people that aren't family too. Like, Perth is kind of small. WA is Western Australia is kind of small. So we're not used to that. But yeah, a lot of them that, would be good at it. Unfortunately, it does scare people. And then agencies don't have insurance for it because of the high risk. It's difficult, but I know that the system that provides for Matt's respite and all that are admitting that they need to work better.
I actually like that part. And I think that's actually the acknowledgement that it is actually difficult. And I think that creates a validation of going, oh, okay, well, we have been doing it hard. And it is obviously difficult to provide those level of supports. Those supports not only have to have first aid, senior first aid, but they have to have seizure-related management training. They have to be able to be med compliant-related training, manual handling training, as well as other sort of life skills in the mix.
Things like things that, and it's not fair on the staff too, because they'll take a while to get to know me, but he can see things that spins me out. He'll say, you're looking funny. And I'm like, I'm fine.
Well, that's the benefit of having a long-term relationship, whether it's for my kids as a father or as for my wife, being together for 34 years. I know every little nuance of Diane. So look, that gives me a large opportunity to be able to see changes. And of course, remembering we're done with autism, introception. She's not going to have a very clear understanding of her own internal states, whether she's thirsty or hungry or needing a toilet. You don't always know what's coming on and happening. So I look at body language, I look at behaviors, I look at predictability because I've been doing this for so long. But going back to the staff specifically, we put a lot of things in place for training. We've created training modules and videos. We've got fantastic documentation in place, which makes their life very easy to do. But our challenge,
working with us,
Yeah.
which is good.
but even in just in Australia in the health system, they have a challenge at finding and keeping hold of. There's a large churn rate, keeping hold of staff that are actually very good.
But you got a full-time job at a hospital.
No, this is just this week. It's like just when you think you've got a handle on things.
Little things together, but sadly she had to leave, and that's common. They go to hospitals to work, and so for med, it's hard to find people to sort of really step back.
Yeah, right. And the other part of that challenge, Lydia, over the years has been actually the security and the stability around housing for disability in Australia. Again, under the NDS, we now have what's known as SDA, Specialist Disability Accommodation. But before, we were independent. We were relying on the rental system. And of course, in a crisis of cost, which is everything was going up, we were struggling, having to try and live as people not able to work a normal day job, but having to focus on homeless at times.
After
And that's really complex when you've got a person who's having seizures and cardiac, respiratory, and a range of other issues simultaneously.
ended up in the hospital,
It's a drama, which we didn't need. But every time that you move, just once you've built up your informal supports as well as all the paid supports and you've got people there, then you're having been forced to move and again. And that's created instability in our ability to actually get the team in place.
fix that, which is really good.
We're really happy about it.
They have a complex side. So NDIS has a, complex side.
Yeah, complex support
which is
team.
really, really good. And my support coordinator, which is a good, I guess she's your
Extension of my staff.
she's a registered nurse. So it's really, really good.
Which means I can actually
Trying to get
hand over certain tasks and responsibilities and accountabilities onto other people, which is great when you're actually able to achieve it. So we've got a plan, we've got a strategy for this year of actually building this team around Diane. It's starting to slowly come together. And when it works, great. That's the really good part. But there's a lot of people out there who might not be able to get on the NDIS, so they don't have access to those supports. They might not have family members who are trained to be in this, working in this space.
There's no actual training yet at the moment. Like you can be a support worker, even in the high care needs at the moment. You can actually kind of be one walking off the street, and they know that the NDIS has admitted that that's not ideal at all, and it has caused deaths. And so they are looking into changing the system completely, but that's going to take time.
It's a work in progress.
It's sad actually.
But it means the difference
now
to her, and then also means the difference to me as far as the family member and the partner. We've got great organisations in Perth, particularly called Carers WA, who do actually connect and look after the carers. They provide opportunities of respite and education and workshops, and just being there is actually important. But our challenge is getting that team together. Support. Yeah, for sure.
Difficult. I wish I was just normal.
Also, Matt, can you?
Yeah.
Also, Matt, can you help, or how do you help Diane with her medical care at home? Can you explain briefly or show us the different technological devices or medications you use to help Diane?
Yeah, sure. So how I help has actually evolved, I guess, over the years, particularly as Diane's condition has deteriorated. Now, I am lucky. I've got a sports science background, so I was trained in injury rehabilitation and repair, which has been actually a very lucky godsend, because Diane, having one part of her condition being Ehlers Danlos, a hypermobility condition, a connective tissue disorder, she dislocates and subluxes joints all over her entire body on a regular basis. So on that hand, I'm lucky that I can actually put the joints back in. I've obviously had a very special interest in Diane and her healthcare and first aid. So I've learned a lot of information along the time. Many partners, many parents, many caregivers over the years, over the decades of having to be with their partner in hospitals, clinics, appointments, you start to learn the language. You start to have a good engagement with your healthcare team and practitioners, particularly your primary care physician. And it has to be that collaborative approach to be able to work together for your person. Now, Diane's got pulse oximetry on, so that I've got alerts. Just for example, behind me over here, We have a system where we can monitor her for heart rate and oxygen. We actually have a crash cart literally always by her bed. And even when we go out, we have portable medical systems to go with us. We have portable oxygen. We have a defibrillator. We have almost a full pharmacy in a cupboard next to us because that's really, and that's another part of it too. It's not just the doctors, but the pharmacists, the chemists. I see them almost every second or third day. They know me by first name. It's insane. But the reality is that's who you're engaging with so much of the time. And whilst I might be spending the time researching because I don't have that time, I bring that research, I ask those informed questions, and together, collaboratively, we're able to then, in this home hospital, even though Diane makes it a very beautiful surrounding, she put so much time into the passion of making things look pretty, which is a lovely distraction away from the medical. We try and hide the medical, but it's nice. It actually makes it nicer.
I try to, like, anything that's been medical, I make it not look medical.
Yeah, and you do a really good job of that, to be honest. But to be honest, when we look around us, Diane's in a disability hospital bed. It's got all the features around that, a high level 4 pressure care alternating air mattress. She's got all these accommodation devices, everything from an AAC device to help her when she can't speak. Sometimes she can be selective mute. We have different facilities to be able to help her through social stories, particularly as an autistic, so we can actually work on the communication methodology. We use Google Home Automation to be able to help remind her and give you triggers to say,
Three problems. So my neuropsychologist is like, she can't take her own medicine. So that would
the medicines, for example. But even the medications which I ban, Diane has to take a lot of things every day.
Sometimes 8 is in one day.
Yeah. And working with her medical team,
each time
we have to do a lot of trials, and those trials are about starting low and going slow, because sometimes you can have oppositional effects or paradoxical effects to things that would work for the mainstream, the norm, but for Diane with her condition, they can sometimes be inverted or reversed. And it's like, this is such a challenge. So everything is done slowly and carefully, one thing at a time, like variable. So we work through that. But that's how we do it. We are well set up, and it's taken us years and years and years to actually put that into place. And that's great, because then it means that we can also put that information, that knowledge.
You've given a lot of nurses knowledge, especially when I'm in hospital times. A lot of nurses, love your input as a carer of, like, knowing the knowledge of 22q.
Yeah. Because like just like those doctors, they may not see a patient like Diane present. A lot of people have one single condition that they might have to deal with, and even though that can be overwhelming, it's lucky that it's only one thing. For Diane, when we talk about some of the neurological, I talk about mixed mode. I don't know what I'm always going to get at that one time. Is it going to be a bit of Tourette's? Is it going to be a bit of dystonia? Is it going to be one of 7 different types of seizure types that you can present with? Is it going to be suddenly an orthostatic drop and oxygen's gone off, or has she got some sort of anaphylaxis reaction to something? And then I'm going, there are a lot of challenges, but you know what? We're actually very calm. We are actually very relaxed.
I don't know how he does it, because, see, I'm lucky I'm the patient. I'm kind of out of it a lot with these events, but he manages stress very well. Doesn't mean that it's easy.
No.
But I'm amazed.
Yeah. But that comes back to that care about. A lot of carers have to put that face on to know we have to do it. We have protocols, we have routines that we follow, a flow chart, so to speak. But the build up of all that, when you step away from that, and even if you're an emergency first responder, an ambulance officer, sometimes it's after that effect that sometimes the stress comes after the event, and you realize, wow, that was close, and then you also analyze, could I have done something better or different? What should I have done? And you upskill, you learn, you never stop learning in this about the condition, and particularly because it's so cutting edge, bleeding edge literally at the moment, there's always new information coming out. So we do spend a lot of our time researching and reading to make sure that we're informed, because if we're informed, we can have informed conversations with the medical professionals at Diane's team. Because unfortunately, when Diane turns up to a clinic appointment, 9 out of 10 times, they're going to ask her, right, tell me about your condition. What is it that I as a specialist need to know so that I can help you? So we have to be prepared. We have to share. We've got a good library of resources, and we open up that education and that advocacy to make sure that they've got all the information to make their own informed decision.
before my, general practitioner, who's kind of like the main person involved in my care, right? He has to do hours of work and prep for every 3 weeks meeting with him, and then social story with me the night before for whatever I might want to ask questions to my doctor or tell him new symptoms if there is one.
And everything's got to be justified. That comes back to even like the NDIS system for national disability. You have to have data, the evidence is coming there. And we're very much based on it. So we collect the information. So we're taking blood pressure, we're taking heart and oxygen. We have a seizure monitoring device that monitors her during the nighttime, and that tells me again heart rate and amount of movement and what's happening there. Temperatures are very important because we're aware that there's certain patterns of behavior for Diane, which helps me as far as predictability to be able to get in front, to attack an issue quickly so that it doesn't become a major life-threatening concern. And then we've got 000 to get an ambulance and have to then present to ED. So we've done well over the time, but that's how we operate. That's how we do it.
And he's definitely burnt out.
And Matt, what do most people not see or not understand about Diane's strength? And how has Diane's health journey changed you as a person?
Yeah. Look, one I'm incredibly proud of and just amazed at my wife. She's had to be incredibly strong against such failure and adversity. So that's the first thing. And I'm always proud every day she gives me strength. What I see is a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of rationales and reasoning to that. In Australia scope particularly, there's a medical misogyny that occurs, and it's well known and identified in our mainstream media. And that's where females are misinterpreted or downplayed in their conditions. And that's dangerous, that's risky. But that's what leads a lot of the time to delays in obviously testing, diagnosis, and subsequent management. 4 times more than males do. And I get that. Now, you also have other effects. In psychology, we have things like the beauty effect. If someone looks after themselves just by having a shower, wearing nice clothes,
presenting so well.
Exactly. Diane loves to do her hair, for example. Now, that can be distracting, but it can also cause confusion that goes, oh, well, look, you look good. You must be good, right?
She's not.
But there's a reality check here as well. We don't go out in the public when Diane's not well. There's been many a time over the years where Diane has not left her bed, not just for days, not even just for weeks, but there's been months and even up to years where the only thing that she's seen is literally the 4 walls of this room. But other people don't see that. Just like our YouTube channel, we're not video recording all the time when she's not able to do so. So they might really only see a bit of a highlight reel of the things that we're able to show or share. We've both got the energy to be able to present and put content together. Now, clinically, I do record a lot of the neurological activities so that, again, that the clinical team can see this, because you can't turn up to an appointment, say at a hospital or at a clinic, and say, okay, Diane, right now, go, seize. And you're waiting and you're just going, well, she can't do that. That's not how it operates. You've got to get all the variables and the things together for events to occur. So the reality is we collect that data and we do it by videos, because I've found over time that's the best way to collect evidence. And if you're talking through that, then I can talk about the things that they can't see on the video. They might not be able to see the blood pressure or what temperature that she is or what actions that she's doing. And by doing that, by collecting that information together, it has helped us to actually point and paint a better picture of understanding to actually learn. Because unfortunately, not all specialists are that special. They're also learning as they go along as well. And they don't know all the latest research. I'm lucky I've got the time. I've got the time to invest in Diane.
They don't have to look things up.
No.
They're not kind of obligated to.
No.
Which is really weird.
And there is a huge difference between the private and the public health system. And unfortunately, we're in a situation where we're reliant on the public health system. We can't afford private health cover to find better specialists. There's a lot of people who, if they're in a financially good position, can travel and go overseas for medical holidays, so to speak. And that gives them access to clinics and medical specialists in those countries who might have knowledge. We don't have access to that. So we are reliant on doing what we're doing. But as I've said, there is many things that might mask. And coming back to things like autism, Diane might not be able to say or understand literal questions or certain things that are asked to her. Or as an autistic, it's quite common to retreat, to actually have pathological demand avoidance, PDA, and not want to go towards healthcare, but particularly if healthcare might actually represent for them pain or suffering, or actually a lot of sensory overwhelm. You've got people touching you and injecting you or putting things on that don't feel good, or it's a cold environment, or it's noisy because of the beats. So that becomes frustrating, doesn't it?
Because ever since I was a kid, I've been to hospitals for my condition. So yeah, it's like the beats, the smell, I don't like
it. It is triggering, and I understand that from my perspective.
And it's a sensory difficult.
We also, unfortunately, where we're located, because of the disparate health system, it's still quite in its infancy, and it hasn't actually really come concretely together collaboratively. Diane used to go to something like up to 8 different hospitals spread around WA. Now we've centralised her care to one major tertiary hospital. Before, even their own internal content management systems weren't communicating or weren't sharing records of information. So I've learned from that. If you don't have the information, then I want to bring everything together. If you don't have the family history, I'm going to bring it all together. And by documenting, by putting all this information together, it paints a very clear picture for the medical team to be able to make informed decisions, to understand symptoms, history, risks, and as well as the clinical information from medical research on 22q.
Yeah, because we learnt a fact that really I'm hoping I can change in my country, which is when we turn 18 here, your childhood records just get archived and then you start again. And so for me, I would not have been late diagnosed with the technology of DNA and stuff if that didn't happen.
But I think you just said DNA. A lot of the children these days who are now being born are in a luckier position where the technology is now here. They can get an immediate DNA test or maybe a MRI. A lot of children are actually deduced about having 22q, mainly because of maybe a heart condition while they're in the womb or immediately upon birth. And that will be the initiator to say, hey, let's look into it. Let's do the DNA. Oh, great, you got 22q. That early intervention sets that person up for life to be able to lead them into further testing and supports in the appropriate way. However, a lot of patients who are maybe Diane's age, older, who have been missed because that technology, that information wasn't there, have slipped through the cracks.
They would just, like at school, it was called, like they would say it to me, I was in special education, it was called mild retardation and developmental delays. And that's how it was presented.
And hyperactivity.
And hyperactivity was ADHD. So all of these labels, like mild retardation is now called autism, hyperactivity is now called ADHD, and developmental delays, well, because of my childhood records being put in archive, the doctors, me as an adult, didn't realize the miscommunication wouldn't have been picked up because they just probably assumed that what I was saying was it, yet it wasn't. I was so selective mute in my 20s and 30s, and so much wasn't said when I went to the doctor alone that is my own condition led to the delay of diagnosis.
Even the simple thing, Lydia, of auditory processing for Diane, if she hears the first thing that the doctor says and she's focusing on that, she might only be able to listen to that tract. Now, meanwhile, the doctor's gone on to ask question number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. She's still focused over here at question number 1 and has them picked up on these other bits and pieces along the way. My role is to be able to come in and listen to all of this, to make sure that she is on task and be able to answer the questions, maybe to have questions asked in a different way. And what we've learned, and even the geneticists have tried to educate the hospital community to say, look, slow things down. Give more time for clinic sessions, double that amount of time. Ask questions in a more simplistic way. If you're going to use a lot of medical terminology, fine, I can understand those. I've been trained. However, maybe she's not. So let's dumb the language down so that we've got a way that she can understand, or use diagrams, pictures. That might actually help. as well. So those sort of things are what can be done to make accommodations to adjust.
Like when I went to university, it's my friends would I had a lot of nice people luckily, but some of them would laugh at me because I'd take 3 hours to read a chapter and they take 15 minutes. So, I just thought that, you know, being, because I was in special ed, that this was just me. Like in my generation, we were never given titles to what was wrong. It was just, there wasn't even disability supports at my university, nothing like that.
But I would like to say that Diane learns differently. She has a hyper-intensive episodic memory. She's able to think in diagrams or pictures far better. Her memories are very early from 1 year of age. But even going through, she may have come out of high school with only a primary school education, but she had a very kind family member who was an educator who realized that Diane needed to learn differently, one-on-one. And by doing that, she was taught how to learn. She went on to go to technical and further education, went on to university. But even at university, when Diane says she might take 10 hours, where a normal student might only take half an hour to do the same thing. But does she get the answer right? Yes, she got it right. She got high distinctions, incredibly great marks. But her university life was marred because of the physical condition, the fatigue, the immaturity, the infections, the pain. All of those become distractions without accommodations to be able to get through and keep going in her academic studies. One of the funny parts was she was called to the dean, the head of psychology at one stage. And she thought she was in trouble because, you know what, at school, she was always in trouble for being hyperactive. Well, she presents to the dean's office and the dean says, congratulations. You have...
I got 89% on an exam.
Great grades. The second time when you called to the dean, you've answered and you've solved a problem that we've presented to every student in the cohort of psychology, and no one's ever got it right. You did. How did you do that? Basically,
I don't know,
I think differently, and she spends the time doing it.
I actually forgot. Like my friends said to me, "Don't you remember them saying, 'Don't worry if you can't get question 5'?" I said, "No." I just sat there for 7 hours. I was like, "I'm gonna get this."
You're very determined. Yeah. It's okay.
Because I was tired of being called stupid.
Right.
So I was like, with my studies as an adult, I was very determined. And so I sat there for 7 hours with that one question.
You're very determined.
It was worth it.
Now, I want to say this, Lydia.
To crack the code.
Diane does crack the code. She is determined in her life every single day because she shows up. She puts on a smile on her face, even though she's going through pain that would make me cry. She's incredible. I'm so proud of her. But you know what? This is what her strength is. She just keeps going through adversity and she keeps achieving. So kudos to you. You do incredibly well.
It keeps me alive.
What are your wishes or goals for 2026? Let's hear from Diane.
My goal is to bring joy to my subscribers. I want to have a really good year of, I want to explore some nature. So I'm hoping that I can do some short little trips because naturally I've got to be careful though, and I've got to take a lot of stuff and maybe staff. But I want to show people things that made me who I am, like places I've grown up and experienced childhood and go into nature. I also just want to make people happy, like do fun videos and just try and live my best life because life is short. And I didn't know that before and I took it for granted. And I don't think anyone, because I know I've always done the hypothetical before I knew my risk factors. And it changed me as soon as I knew my risk factor. And the fact that life is so short for me, I want to just live in such joy. And so that's my goal, is to, even if I know things are going to happen, I know there's going to be days where I'm like, I can't do this. It's too hard. Luckily for me, I don't know what it is. I wake up the next day and what can I do that's fun? So I'm going to just keep focusing on that. And I hope to to bring other disabled people with me on that journey, because I know that disability in societies is just so harsh on them, and I don't want them to be sad. And I guess I take after my grandfather. I'd like to save people. Hashtag save for humans. I went into social welfare before university, and so I'm just going to keep going with it and live that dream, and at the same time just enjoy everything about life.
That's really cool. So
Heart rate.
your heart rate's just massively dropping all the. Sorry, Lidos, can keep an eye on this as we go.
That's completely fine.
I think that's all good at stabilizing out. Now, this is the thing. Sometimes during the course of our day, things can just go as little bleeps, and sometimes they can go into major events. But look, my job here is to actually help encourage Diane to achieve her goals for this year and make the accommodations to see these things actually happen.
Him as well.
Yeah. And look, we've done really well. I think we've achieved a massive goal really with the disability sector in Australia as far as the NDIS. We've really got a lot of good supports now in place to help Diane to achieve what she's doing and the equipment around that. My next goal for this year really is to work with the health system to improve better visibility, to create better advocacy, to actually help not just Diane alone. I'm working with one of the universities here in Perth, again in genetic and rare, to work on advocacy. So saying, well, what do we need to do to help the patients in their home environments, to help the carers like myself or the family, to get that information out so that we're not all reinventing the wheel, so that they're not all starting at zero again, but we can actually come in with an informed way of doing things, more efficient, more effective, and with better outcomes at the end of the day. So that's our goal for this year, I hope.
Yeah.
And high five to that.
Before I end this interview, I want really to thank you both for the invaluable lessons you have already taught me. And also, I want to point out that heroism is a theme we see often in human stories. People of great strength doing extraordinary things. And your story, Diane and Matt, gives me hope, really, and makes our difficult world feel like a bit kinder, and even serves as both inspiration and aspiration. So even if we don't all carry those qualities in the same way, knowing they exist in people like you, Matt, is very, very comforting. And even Diane, your strength, the way that your husband might describe it, is very inspiring.